Good morning. I'm glad to see such a great crowd for a introduction of a bill and a piece of policy that we think is very important. And I'm thankful for my colleagues for joining me, Michelle Bachmann on my left and Louis Gomert on my right, and of course I'm Steve King from Iowa. And today we'll be introducing a piece of legislation that has been working a long time in the coming called the Promises Act. And what it does is it guarantees that America will keep its promises. As I fumble around here for the acronym, you're probably going to want to know where that comes from. Our creative Capitol Hill comes up with some good names for bills. Promises stands for payment reliability for our obligations to military and investors to secure essential stability. Now, you will know that we're faced with the debt ceiling debate, and it is an unknown at this point as to how it will emerge when in the contest of wills between those of us who want to ensure constitutional and fiscally responsible principles, which includes a constitutional amendment for a balanced budget and the repeal of Obamacare and a number of other items. But we've watched as a couple of things were used as leverage to get agreements here in this Congress. One of them was military pay, and the other one is the president's tactics, I believe just yesterday, when he was speaking of military pensions and veterans checks in particular and Social Security payments, when the president said, I cannot guarantee that those checks go out on August 3rd if we haven't resolved this issue, because they may simply not be the money in the coffers to do it. President Obama. Remember when he said, you know, check your ultimatums at the door? And that sounds to me like at least a veiled threat, if not an ultimatum. But what we know is this, that there's money that comes in, there's revenue that comes in, and it's an annually around $2.5 trillion under the current flow. And of that, we want to make sure that we keep our promises. Now, if I look at the people in this Congress that have led on this issue on the House side, in particular, Tom McClintock and his full faith and credit piece of legislation that ensures that we keep our credit and our bond rating by paying and servicing our debts first. That's been his principle. Louis Gomert, whom we'll hear from in a little bit, has very much and powerfully led on the issue of making sure that our military are paid and that they're paid on time and that they're not used as a lever politically to move legislation. It's my belief that if we put these two issues together and we get them to the president's desk for a signature, and I can't imagine what his argument would be against paying our military and keeping our credit rating up, but if we do that and that turns into law, then it's easier for us to sit down and negotiate what we might do without the threat of no military pay, without the threat of watching our credit go down. And if we want to see the bond markets hold up, if we want to see our national credit hold up, then we need to pay and service our debts. So these are the two high promises. They're also, our military is a constitutional obligation. Our servicing our debt is, I'll say, a constitutional recommendation, at least a power that's enumerated within the Constitution. And so what this bill does is it guarantees that we set a priority to pay our debts, our bills, in this order. We pay our military first, because they're the ones that protect the security and liberty of the American people. And we can't defend our shores or our interests abroad if we're not going to pay our military. That's a guarantee. Their lives are on the line. And when you look them in the eye and you see that noble look and you know that they're worried about their families back home not having the resources to pay the rent check because there's politics being played in Washington, D.C., we owe them better. We need to guarantee to them for all time that we'll pay our military first and on time. Second is the interest in servicing the debt, the national debt. Those two things, that would consume around 15.2% of our revenue stream. There's still a lot of money left over for the president's discretion to play political games, but let's not do so with our military, and let's not let our the full faith and credit of the United States go to pot at the expense of political leveraging. So that's the initiative of this bill, and I'd be happy, and I'm very grateful that Michelle Bachmann has agreed to join on to this bill. And she's led on a lot of principles, and we're going to see many principles emerge as time moves forward. But I'd like to introduce Michelle Bachmann.